We live in a world obsessed with hacks, calendar apps, to-do lists, productivity tools, color-coded planners. We're taught to believe that managing time is about doing more faster and with fewer distractions. But ask yourself this: what's the point of being more efficient if you're not doing what really matters to you? The truth is, most people don't have a time management problem, they have a clarity problem. They don't lack hours in the day, they lack a reason for how they're using those hours. And so they wake up, they rush through their mornings, they bounce from meeting to meeting, scrolling through their phones in between, and by the end of the day, they collapse exhausted, asking themselves, where did the day go? We can schedule every minute of our day, but if we don't know why we're doing any of it, we're just busy being busy. There's a difference between movement and progress. One is exhausting, the other is meaningful. Before we learn how to manage time, we need to ask why we should. Why are we doing this in the first place? What are we trying to create, protect, or pursue with the time we have? That's the real question. Because time management without purpose is just a prettier version of distraction. It might look organized on the outside, but inside it's still empty. Think of someone you admire, not for how packed their schedule is, but for the way they live. The people who seem calm in chaos, focused without being frantic. They don't just manage their time. They honor it. And they do it because they've anchored their lives to something deeper than tasks. They know their why. When you start with why, decisions become clearer. Time becomes less about scarcity and more about alignment. You stop asking, how can I fit everything in, and start asking, what deserves to be here? That shift changes everything. Take, for example, a parent who's also a business leader. The demands pull from all directions. The calendar is full and the inbox never sleeps. But this person has decided that family dinners, those 45 minutes at the end of the day, are sacred. That's their why. And so when a meeting threatens to spill over, or when a client asks for a late call, the answer is simple, not easy, but simple. It's no, because they know why they're managing their time the way they are. Contrast that with someone who hasn't thought about their why. They say yes to every request, every meeting, every favor. They run from task to task, never stopping to ask, does this even matter? They burn out not because they don't have time, but because they've given it away to everything and everyone without intention. Starting with why isn't about being rigid. It's not about sticking to some moral code of productivity. It's about freedom. When you're clear on what matters most, you gain the freedom to let go of what doesn't. That's when time starts to feel like an ally instead of an enemy. It works with you, not against you. Too many people chase balance as if it's a math problem. An equal distribution of time across work, family, health, hobbies. But balance isn't symmetry, it's alignment. It's knowing what season you're in and living it fully. Some seasons demand more from your career, others from your relationships, and others still from your inner life. The key isn't to divide time equally, it's to invest time intentionally. Intentional living starts with intentional time. And intentional time starts with why. When leaders or teams come together without clarity, time gets wasted. On meetings that go nowhere, strategies that never align, and long hours that lead to burnout. But when you build a culture around purpose, people become more mindful of how they show up. Meetings are shorter, conversations are sharper, and energy is focused. And this isn't just about work, this is personal, because each of us is given the same 24 hours every day. What you do with them says something about what you value, whether you realize it or not. The question is, are you choosing your values consciously or letting the world choose them for you? One of the most powerful things you can do is take 15 minutes, not to plan, not to list tasks, but to reflect. Ask yourself, why do I want to manage my time better? Is it to be more present with your kids? To write that book you've been putting off? To take care of your health? To build something that matters? That answer becomes your compass. And once you have a compass, every choice gets easier. You don't need to schedule every second, you just need to know what direction you're moving in. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. You can be efficient at the wrong things. You can be so good at getting things done that you wake up one day and realize you climbed the wrong mountain. That's the cost of managing time without managing purpose. But it's never too late to shift. Every moment is a choice. Every calendar block, every meeting, every yes, every no, when you filter them through your why, you start to take your time back. You begin to lead your life instead of reacting to it. You don't need more hours in the day, you need more meaning in the ones you already have. So before you open your planner, before you download that new app, before you try to optimize your schedule down to the minute, stop. Ask why. Why do I want to manage my time? What am I trying to protect? Who am I trying to become? Because once you answer that, the how will follow. And not only will your time be better managed, your life will be better lived. We have glorified the word busy. Somehow, being busy has become a badge of honor, something we wear with pride. How are you, someone asks. And the most common reply isn't I'm good or I'm grateful. It's I'm busy. As if that automatically means we're doing something worthwhile. As if busyness is a measure of value. But here's the thing, being busy and being effective are not the same. Being busy and being fulfilled are definitely not the same. And he says, what if the problem isn't how much we're doing, but how little intention we bring to what we do? When we fill every hour with meetings, every minute with notifications, and every second with movement, we create noise. And when there's too much noise, we can't hear what truly matters. We become masters at doing, but not always with direction. We know how to stay occupied, but not always how to stay aligned. Intentionality is not about doing more or doing less. It's about doing what matters on purpose with clarity. It's the difference between drifting and navigating, between reacting and leading. A busy person can go through the whole day doing things and still feel empty. An intentional person can do fewer things and feel deeply satisfied. The key difference isn't the number of hours or even the number of tasks. It's the presence behind the actions. So why do we chase busy? Because it gives us the illusion of importance. And it makes us feel needed, involved, essential. But importance doesn't come from how full your schedule is. It comes from how full your actions are with meaning. People often fear slowing down because they think it's the same as falling behind. But slowing down can actually be the most strategic move. It gives you the space to think, to reflect, to choose. Think about someone you admire, not because they're always on the move, but because of how they move through life. These people don't just fill time, they shape it. They don't just react to their day, they lead their day. When they walk into a room, they're present. When they speak, there's weight in their words. That's not a product of a packed calendar. That's a product of intentional living. Replacing busy with intentional starts with awareness. You begin by asking yourself, why am I doing this? Not in a cynical way, but in a deeply curious way. Not everything that comes your way deserves your energy. Not every meeting needs your presence. Not every email needs an instant reply. You are allowed to filter. In fact, you must. We have to stop seeing productivity as a measure of worth and start seeing alignment as the real goal. Alignment means your time, your actions, your values, they all point in the same direction. It means your external life reflects your internal purpose. That's where real power lives. Let's take a real example. Imagine two people with the same job, same hours, same responsibilities. One fills every spare moment with multitasking, jumping between emails, phone calls, and last-minute requests. At the end of the day, they're drained, scattered, unsure what they even accomplished. The other blocks out focused time, sets clear boundaries, says no to what doesn't align, and shows up fully for what does. Same job, same hours, very different outcomes. Not just in performance, but in peace of mind. One lives by default, the other by design. Intentionality also demands courage. Saying no to busy often means disappointing someone. It means pushing back, defending your focus, protecting your peace. And that's not always easy. But here's the truth. If you don't prioritize your time, someone else will. And they'll fill it with their needs, their urgency, their version of what matters. If you want to live intentionally, you have to be willing to disappoint the right people. This doesn't mean becoming selfish. It means becoming honest about what you can give, when, and to whom. It means recognizing that your time is not infinite, so it must be spent like the precious resource it is. Busy is often loud. Intentional is quiet. Busy says, look how much I'm doing. Intentional says, look how much I care about what I'm doing. Busy is a sprint. Intentional is a marathon. And marathons are not won by rushing. They're won by kind of steady, thoughtful, committed steps. So how do you start? Not by tearing your life apart or quitting everything tomorrow. You start with one choice. One intentional decision each day. Maybe it's choosing not to check your phone the moment you wake up. Maybe it's protecting 1 hour for deep work. Maybe it's saying no to that meeting you don't really need to attend. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It just has to be deliberate. And over time, these small intentional choices build a life that feels lighter, not because there's less in it, but because what's in it is aligned. You begin to feel more in control, not because you control everything, but because you've chosen what truly deserves your attention. There will always be more to do, more calls, more emails, more demands. But the question is, will you let them lead you, or will you lead yourself? Intentionality is not a one-time fix. It's a way of being, a daily commitment to living on purpose rather than on autopilot. It's about trading the illusion of busy for the substance of meaning, trading the rush for the real. Because in the end, no one will remember how many tasks you checked off, but they will remember how you showed up for your work, for your people, for yourself. So when you catch yourself saying, I'm just so busy, pause. Ask instead, am I being intentional? That one question could change not just your day, but your direction. We talk a lot about managing time, we talk less about managing energy. But energy is the invisible force behind everything we do. It's the currency of productivity, the fuel behind focus, and the foundation of well-being. You can have a perfectly color-coded calendar, every task slotted into the right hour, and still feel overwhelmed, scattered, and empty. That's because time is a container, energy is what fills it. And when you're running on empty, no amount of scheduling can save you. We often assume that if we control our calendar, we control our life. But here's the truth. You can't schedule your way out of burnout. You can't organize your way into passion. And you can't calendar your way into clarity. Because what truly drives results, connection, and meaning is not how much you do, but how you show up for what you do. And that starts with protecting your energy. When we say yes to everything, when we push through fatigue, when we overcommit and under-recover, we don't just drain ourselves, we dilute ourselves. We give people the version of us that's physically present but emotionally absent. And slowly we begin to forget what it even feels like to be fully alive in a moment. We become reactive, not intentional, tired, not thoughtful, busy but not bold. It doesn't have to be this way. We're all wired differently. Some of us do our best thinking in the early morning when the world is quiet. Others come alive late at night when creativity flows in silence. Some are drained by meetings. Others thrive on connection. Energy is personal. And the most successful people aren't the ones who try to do it all. They're the ones who've learned how and when to give their best energy to what matters most. So why do so many of us ignore our energy? Because we've been taught to value output over alignment. We've been told that productivity is about how much we do, not how deeply we engage. But energy doesn't lie. You can't fake it. You know the difference between powering through a task and bringing your full presence to it. You know what it feels like when you're inspired, alive, sharp. And you know what it feels like when you're just surviving. To protect your energy, you have to start by respecting it. That means noticing your own rhythms, paying attention to when you feel most focused, most creative, most grounded. It means observing not just what drains you, but who. It means giving yourself permission to structure your life around your natural flow, not someone else's expectations. This isn't selfish, it's strategic. Because when you protect your energy, you protect your impact. You make better decisions, you communicate more clearly, you think more deeply, you lead more authentically. Imagine someone trying to pour water from an empty cup. No matter how much they tip it, nothing flows. That's what we do when we ignore our energy. We try to give what we don't have. And eventually, something gives. Our health, our creativity, our relationships. What would happen if instead of asking, what do I have to do today, we asked, what deserves my best energy today? That one question could shift the entire direction of your day. Suddenly, the focus isn't just on completing tasks. It's on showing up well. It's about quality, not just quantity. And here's something else to consider. Not all tasks require your peak energy. Some things just need to get done, and that's okay. But the things that truly move you forward, the deep thinking, the hard conversations, the creative work, the time with loved ones, those deserve your best. Not your leftovers, not the end of day, half there, half burned out version of you. They deserve the part of you that's most alive. That's why protecting your energy is a leadership skill, because when you're at your best, you elevate others. You set the tone. You create space for clarity, for collaboration, for courage. And when your energy is fractured, people feel it. It's not about being perfect, it's about being present. So how do you protect something as intangible as energy? You start by listening. You notice what recharges you. Maybe it's solitude, maybe it's movement, maybe it's play or rest or nature or laughter or learning, whatever it is, make it non-negotiable. Don't treat rest like a reward. Treat it like a responsibility. Because burnout doesn't come from working hard. It comes from never stopping to refuel. You also learn to say no, not to everything, but to the things that pull you away from your center. And you learn to say yes, not out of guilt or obligation, but out of alignment with what truly matters to you. You start seeing boundaries not as walls, but as filters that keep your energy focused and your purpose intact. This isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily discipline to wake up and ask, where is my energy needed most, and then to give it there, fully and freely. We live in a world that measures success by what's visible, titles, income, status, checklists. But real success is internal. It's about how you feel when you're living in alignment. It's about waking up with clarity and going to bed with peace. It's about having energy at the end of the day for the things that matter most. Because here's the truth. Protecting your energy doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. It means you've chosen to lead your life rather than let your life lead you. It means you've decided that being present is more important than being busy, that showing up fully matters more than showing up constantly. And that's not just a better way to manage your time, it's a better way to live your life. Ultimately, every time you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else. It's not always obvious and it's rarely intentional, but the trade-off is real. When you say yes to that meeting you didn't need to attend, you might be saying no to a quiet moment of focus. When you say yes to every social invitation, you may be saying no to rest. When you say yes to what someone else wants for your time, you may be saying no to what you actually need. The problem isn't that we say yes, it's that we say yes without thinking. We say yes to please, we say yes to avoid conflict, we say yes because we feel guilty or flattered or afraid that if we don't, the opportunity might disappear. But in our rush to accommodate, we forget the most important thing. Every yes carries a cost. And if we're not careful, we end up spending our lives on things we never really chose. There's this quiet pressure in the world to be agreeable, to be helpful, to be generous with our time. And in many ways, those are beautiful things. But when generosity turns into self-sacrifice, when helpfulness turns into depletion, when saying yes to others becomes saying no to ourselves, we don't just lose time, we lose direction, we lose clarity. We lose connection with what actually matters to us. We have to reclaim the word no, not as a rejection, but as a redirection, not as selfishness, but as self-respect. Because when we say no to the wrong things, we create the space to say yes to the right ones. Saying no isn't about closing doors. It's about choosing which ones are worth walking through. Think of someone you know who seems deeply rooted. Someone who seems calm, centered, clear, the kind of person who doesn't get swept up in the chaos. If you look closely, you'll notice something. They've learned how to say no. Not harshly, not carelessly, but with intention. They know what matters to them. And because of that, they don't say yes to everything, they say yes to what aligns. That's the difference between pleasing everyone and honoring yourself. Well, we often fear that saying no will disappoint people, and it might. But living out of alignment with your own values to avoid disappointing others, that's a slow erosion of self. You don't notice it at first, but over time you begin to feel resentful, exhausted, stretched too thin. You're there physically for everything, but emotionally you're nowhere. That's the price of too many unintentional yeses. So when you begin to lead your time from a place of clarity, no becomes an act of purpose. It becomes a way to protect your yes. And your yes is precious. Your yes is powerful. It should mean something. But if you say yes to everything, eventually it means nothing. The most meaningful yeses in life, yes to your purpose, yes to your family, yes to your health, yes to your deepest work, require space. They need time. They need focus. And you can't give them those things if your life is filled with obligations you never truly chose. It's not just about tasks and schedules. This is about your identity, about who you are becoming. Because every decision you make, every time you choose to engage or disengage, you are shaping your future. You're deciding what gets your energy, what gets your focus, what gets your heart. Saying no allows you to choose what's worth your best self. And that doesn't mean you won't help others. In fact, the more intentional you are with your time, the more fully you can show up when it actually matters. A clear no to something outside your lane makes room for a wholehearted yes where you're meant to lead, contribute, or care. People don't need more of you. They need more of your presence. And presence can only exist when it's not being pulled in 1,000 directions. Let's be honest. Saying no is hard, especially when the request comes from someone you care about. But think about this. Have you ever said yes to something and immediately felt the weight of regret? That gut feeling of, I didn't want to do this. I just didn't know how to say no? That feeling doesn't come from a lack of time. It comes from a lack of alignment. The most powerful leadership skills, whether in work, life, or relationships, is the ability to pause, to check in, to say, let me get back to you. That space creates clarity. It gives you room to ask, is this a yes from the heart or a yes from habit? We live in a culture of immediacy. Everything is urgent. Everything feels like it needs the answer right now. But not everything deserves your instant yes. And more often than not, the best answers come from reflection, not reaction. Here's the irony. The more you say no, the stronger your yes becomes. The more meaningful it feels. Because now when you say yes, people know it's real. You've made a choice. You've counted the cost. And you've decided it's worth it. That's what people respect. Not your availability, but your intentionality. There's a quiet confidence in someone who knows what they're about, who protects their yes like it matters. Because it does. Time is the most limited thing you have. Once it's gone, it's gone. So don't waste it on things that don't move you, grow you, or reflect you. It's not about having a perfect schedule or being ruthless with your time. It's about living from a place of purpose, about building a life that's full, not just busy, meaningful, not just impressive, real, not just reactive. And the only way to do that is to say no. Not to be cold, not to be distant, but to be present. When you know what you're saying no to, you begin to understand what you're really saying yes to. And in that choice lies your power. Most people don't design their day, they survive it. They roll out of bed already behind. They check their phone, and just like that, their day is no longer their own. They're reacting to texts, emails, the news, and notifications. They haven't even taken a breath for themselves, but already they're running. And this becomes the pattern. Days blur together, not because they're full of purpose, but because they're full of noise. When we don't design our day, someone else designs it for us. And here's the scary part. They don't always have your best interests in mind. The urgent replaces the important. The immediate overshadows the meaningful. And over time, we become excellent at being busy and poor at being intentional. But what if the solution isn't to do more, but to focus better? What if it's not about squeezing in another task, but about anchoring your day in what truly matters. Design your day isn't about rigid routines or becoming a productivity machine. It's about clarity. It's about starting from a place of intention, of purpose. It's about asking yourself, what do I want to give my energy to today? Not what do I have to do, but what do I choose to do? Because that choice, that ownership is where all the power lives. The people who seem most calm, most in control, aren't the ones who get the most done. They're the ones who know what not to do. They're not swept up in every passing fire drill. They've decided what matters, and they've built their time around it. That's the difference. They're not reacting to the day, they're leading it. Designing your day starts with something deceptively simple, knowing what matters most. It's easy to say, harder to live. But when you strip away the noise, the distractions, the false urgency, what's left? Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's doing deep, focused work that brings you alive. Maybe it's making space to grow, to reflect, to contribute, whatever it is. That's your anchor, and everything else should orbit around that. That means your calendar should reflect your values, not the other way around. You shouldn't just make time for the urgent. You should protect time for the meaningful. Block it off. Guard it fiercely. Because if you don't, the world will fill your schedule with things that look important but aren't. And that's how people wake up one day wondering where all their time went. Your day is like a blank canvas. Every hour is a brushstroke. And you are the artist. You get to decide what picture you want to create. But if you don't pick up the brush, someone else will paint it for you. Start by owning your mornings. Before the world gets loud, give yourself quiet. Not just to scroll, but to think, to be, to check in with yourself. A clear mind is more valuable than a full schedule. If your day starts with clarity, you'll make better choices. And you'll say no more easily, you'll know what to protect. And when you plan your day, don't just plan tasks. Plan space. Space to breathe, to adjust, to think. We often treat our calendar like a game of Tetris, trying to fit everything in. But creativity, insight, and connection don't happen in the margins. They happen in the space between. So build that space. Defend it. That's where your best thinking lives. It's also important to know when you work best, energy isn't constant. We all have rhythms, times when we're focused and times when we're drained. Design your day to match your energy. Do your most important work when you're most alert. Handle the small stuff when your energy dips. Don't waste your peak hours on shallow tasks. That's like using premium fuel to idle in traffic. Use it to move. Another key is reflection. At the end of the day, ask yourself, did I spend my time on what matters? Did I show up the way I wanted to? Was I present or just busy? These questions don't take long, but they reveal everything. They help you course correct. They help you realign. You see, designing your day isn't about control. It's about responsibility. You don't control what happens to you, but you are responsible for how you show up, how you choose, how you lead your time. And that starts one day at a time. This isn't about perfection. You will get off track. That's okay. What matters is that you keep coming back. Keep choosing to design, not drift. Keep asking yourself what matters. Keep giving yourself permission to live with intention, even if it means disappointing others. Because if your day doesn't reflect your values, neither will your life. It's easy to get caught up in the pace of everything, but speed without direction is chaos. You can move fast and still be lost. Designing your day is how you stay grounded in a world that wants to pull you in every direction. And when you design your day around what matters most, you begin to feel something powerful. You feel peace, not because life is quiet, but because you're clear. You feel focused, not because everything is done, but because you know what must get done. You feel fulfilled, not because your schedule is full, but because your time is aligned with your values. That's the goal. Not more hours, but more purpose in the hours you have. You won't get it right every day. You don't need to. What matters is that you keep choosing. Because every time you design your day with intention, you're not just managing time, you're leading your life.